the basic underpinning of how this thing works. Now, some AI models get so good at it that they can actually take it a step further and they can create content. And that's what we are talking about when you hear generative AI or Gen AI for short. And that is really the thing that is making this take off for businesses and organizations. And AI, it's not just text. I mean, we're going to focus on text today, but it goes beyond that. Gen AI can create images, video, music, code. It can do all sorts of stuff. And that is the focus of what I'm going to talk about in this workshop to hopefully help your businesses succeed.
So Stacia, I want to chime in here. Someone was recently telling me that they were using a Gen AI tool essentially as a business coach.
Mm-hmm.
So
you could use a Gen AI tool for anything that you want. You could use it as a business coach. You could use it as literally a fashion consultant. Do these sneakers work with my fancy pants? You could use it as, you could actually take a photograph and ask for advice. When we go through some of the prompts, I will show you how that works. And this kind of ties into the theme that I'll be talking about a persona. And so one of the most important things for you to do when you're working with an AI tool, a Gen AI tool, is to ask it to operate in the capacity of, or act like you are a business coach, or a fashion consultant, or a marketing consultant, or a local restaurant aficionado. Whatever it is, whatever kind of expertise you're pulling from, that is part of the AI prompt. And hang on, I'm going to get into that in just 1 second. Before I do a little bit, I heard someone talk a little bit about talking about some of the ethics. And so one of the things that this presentation doesn't specifically focus on that one topic, but I will say one thing that is really important is to maintain what we call the human-in-the-loop approach. And that means that AI is your tool. You can use AI to help you do things, but it is not intended to replace your work, your human perspective to what that output is. And as Susan said before, AI can get it wrong sometimes. And so that is why when you're using this, I want you to think of it as your partner, as your thought starter. It is not replacing the work that you need to do, because after all, you are the experts in your businesses, and you need to make sure that what the output is going to be resonate with what it is you're actually trying to get. Okay, so let's talk about prompting like a pro. So some of you have used Gemini before. How many of you has anyone here never prompted before? Anybody? Okay, so you've all prompted. That's fantastic. How many of you feel really confident about your prompting, though? Okay, most of you not. So that's good. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. We're going to talk about prompting to improve your skills, and this is really going to help improve the output and help you get more from these tools. Okay, so I want you to think about prompting as literally like having a conversation with someone to give them instructions. Okay, I've been doing this for a long time. I will tell you, full disclosure, when I first started getting, they told me, like, you got to go teach these AI workshops. I'm like, okay, fine. So I started learning about prompting and AI tools. The first time I did it, it just failed. It just when I put in a prompt, the results were not useful. And I almost looked into it where I was going to just give up. Be like, I may as well just write this thing myself because it will be faster, right? And that's a really easy sort of trap to fall into. The thing is, I had unrealistic expectations that this computer program could read my mind, because it doesn't really know what I want until I really clearly articulate what it is that I want the output to be. And so it does take some work to prompt. You really do need to think about it and be very, very specific about it. But it's kind of like saying, hey, could you make me a chocolate chip cookie? And then not giving any information about what the ingredients are, or the ratio for the ingredients, or like how many cookies you need. So it's really a matter of you needing to be very specific about what those those instructions are going to be. Okay. So again, for today, we're going to be focusing on Gemini, but one of the things that I would like to put out there is that no matter what AI tool you are using, a lot of the techniques or the techniques that I'm showing you today can apply to any tool that you're using. Although if you haven't tried Gemini, I'd say give it a shot. If you have your computer with you, you are welcome to follow along with me. You would get to it at gemini.google.com, and then you would just make sure you need to be signed into your Google account to use it. If you don't have it with you, or your computer, or your laptop, or you'd just rather listen, that's absolutely fine. But when you get home, give it a shot, because I really do think that if you do it, doing it will actually help you get more out of it. Okay, so let's talk about prompting to delegate a task. Okay, so there are 5 ingredients in a really strong prompt, and I've got them up here on the screen. So if you want, you can take a photograph of this slide so you've got it. But these are the 5 things that you need to create a quality prompt and the output. Okay, let's start with each step. The first one is the task. And the task is literally describing to Gemini or to your AI tool what it is that you want it to do. Do you want it to write a blog post? Do you want it to write email copy for a customer? Do you want to write all of the text for your new homepage for your website? Do you want it to create an image that shows, an example of happy customers with your products and services? Whatever it is that you want it to do, that is the task, and you need to be very clear about what you're asking it to do. So that's the first ingredient in the prompt. So let me see, how about an example? So one of the things I can tell you what I did yesterday, when I'm not presenting for Google, I do a lot of work for a nonprofit. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. And so yesterday, it's today, the grant proposal was due, and I actually used Google Gemini to put my responses in, and I asked Gemini to operate as my grant writing coach, and Gemini was able to help me really refine all of the responses for that grant proposal, which we submitted today. Or get submitted today. Today's the 15th, right? Yeah. So it's going in today. But that's what I did yesterday, and so that's one example of how you might be able to use it. And the task that I gave Gemini was help me improve these responses for this grant proposal. So if any of you are filling out all sorts of proposals and things like that, you can run them through the AI tool and get advice on how to actually make it better. Now, persona, I already touched on that a little bit, but again, think about what expertise you want to pull from. And that is the next part of your prompt. Incidentally, all of these things I've listed, the 5 things, they don't need to be in any particular order. So it doesn't matter where you write this in, it's just that all the ingredients have to be in there when you are creating your prompt. So it could be, as a chef, as a marketing, as a marketer, as a airline pilot, whatever expertise you're pulling from, you need to tell Gemini or your AI tool who they are so they can give you the right information that you're looking for.
So let me ask on that one. So in this case, would a small business owner say, let's say they've lost their entire business, they're not sure if they want to rebuild or they want to start a brand new business or an entirely different industry. So in this case, could someone prompt Gemini to say, you are a business coach, and help me understand if I should pursue an Italian restaurant or a beauty shop? How does that work? Like
100%.
that?
So you could operate and you could ask, based on this information, you can actually, you can actually upload information that's relevant to the area. So you could upload, any kind of news stories or business, any information about what's happening in that climate to give it context. So we're going to jump ahead to that task in a second. But the more information that you give this AI tool, the AI prompt, the better it can operate and to give you that output that you're looking for. In this case, who would you be asking about? Just think about okay, who do I want the answer from? So the be whatever expertise you are looking from. I am looking from a business advisor. I am looking as someone who is doing career counseling in the Los Angeles area or a business consultant in the Los Angeles area. You can ask it to pull from that expertise. So that's a great question, Susan. Okay, so the next thing that you want to think about is the format. So what are you looking for? Are you looking for a piece of text? Are you looking for a bulleted list? Are you looking for a chart? Are you looking for a list of areas where you could potentially reopen a business? Are you looking for an area where you're trying to do some research on a particular part of the city? All of that kind of stuff you can put into your AI tool, and you can tell Gemini what format you want that in. So again, we're starting, you can see we're layering on top of that. So we've got the task, what we want it to do. We've got the format, how you want that information to be presented. And now we have the persona, which is the expertise that the tool is drawing from. Everybody with me so far?
So I have a question on that one.
Yeah.
I need to know this.
Sure.
So the output point here, so in other words, we would say, gather all the economic data from this particular zip code and present it in a spreadsheet.
100%. Okay. And another thing that you could do, I'm jumping, Susan, sorry, questions. I'm jumping ahead to a bunch of things. But here's another way, kind of using that same situation, you could do it a different way. I was actually presenting at an event in Georgia, and it was the head of the Chamber of Commerce. And in this case, he had a really long, this was a piece of legislation that he had to read. But it was a 500-page PDF that had all of this information in it, and he had to read it and understand it. So another way that you could use a tool is if you're looking at all of these economic reports, or all of this data, you can actually upload it to Gemini and say, give me a one-page summary of all of this information. So that's another way that it could really save time for y'all, because I imagine you've got a lot of stuff and a lot of legal stuff and stuff in the government that you have to read and go through. Well, I'm not saying that you shouldn't when you have time to read it all, but if you need help with it, getting it through more quickly, you can upload that PDF to Gemini, and it can help you find the things, the insights that you're looking for. So that's another really helpful way to use these tools. Okay, so the next thing is context. And some people say that this is actually the most important part of the prompt, because the context is just, you can imagine saying, adding it to your prompt, the sentence that begins with, also, you should know that. And in this case, you're a small business owner in Los Angeles, and this would be a case where also, you should know that I was significantly impacted by the January 2025 fires. And the more information that you can provide for the tool, the better, the closer that output would be. And again, you cannot write too much here. I will tell you the more is more here, telling the AI tool all of the things that it needs to understand in order to be able to give you the results that you're looking for. So that is perhaps the most important part. Does anybody want to give me an example of what kind of context you might give? What is it that I would need to know about your business? That's kind of hard. Yes, sir.
I have started a business. I'm tax preparer. I don't know what to. How can I reach out to individuals that might be help prepare tax?
So I know the folks in the back couldn't hear it, but that was a great example. He's a startup. He's a tax preparer. He's looking to try to contact individuals who need help with their tax preparation. So he's giving lots of information, just saying, I'm a local business in Los Angeles. Or this is the name of my business. He's really describing who he is, where he is in this business landscape, and asking Gemini to help provide information that would help him in this particular scenario. Okay, so everybody, there are a lot of people in the room, so I'm not going to do a whole lot of hands because otherwise we'll be here all day. But let's keep going. Last but not least is references. Now, references, you may not have these. I know it's the fifth ingredient in this recipe, but you may not have a reference. It may be that because the thing that you're asking for doesn't really exist. You have an idea of what you wanted to do or create, but you don't have a good example. But here is one way that you might use it. So maybe Susan was planning this beautiful event, and when she was in that preparation stage, she found a brochure for a different event. It could have been, just for a farmer's market, anything. But you really liked the way the information was presented, or the tone of the writing, or the visual concepts that were presented. So what you could do in that case is Susan could actually share that piece of information, that PDF or that email or whatever that is, along with the prompt to say, I really like how they did this with this example. And that is a reference. So you can actually show the AI tool what it is that you're looking to make. So one of the ways to sort of think about that is, how many of y'all have ever gone in for a haircut and then you tried to describe like what you wanted with your hair, but then it's way easier to just show a picture, right? And it's kind of the same thing. So if you can show an example of what you want, oftentimes the AI tool can do an even better job. Okay, now, the next step in this is to evaluate your output. I want you to then, once you've done and you've added all of this information into your prompt, now it's time to look at it. You need to say, or you need to think about, does it actually meet your goals? Is it accurate? Is it useful? And many times, I won't say many times, because if you put all those elements in, it's probably pretty good, but it might not be exactly what you were looking for. And that's where the most important part comes in, and that is iteration. You will not always get exactly what you want out of it every single time. And you need to iterate for a better result. And there are lots of different ways to do that. The first thing you could do is say, all right, let me go back and look at those 5 ingredients. And am I missing anything? Do I need to clarify anything? And you can just try to tweak your prompt that way. Another thing you can do, and I know I just said more is more, but sometimes with an AI tool, if you throw too much at it all at once, sometimes it can kind of bog down. So maybe you break it up into smaller sentences. Or one of the nice things, and it works for a lot of AI tools, Gemini included, you can build on prompts that happened before. So maybe you actually split it into multiple prompts and you start adding more information. And I wanted to do this, and I wanted to do this. And that can also help. Another thing, and as Susan mentioned, AI tools, this is new technology. It is learning, it is getting better. But there are some situations where you're saying, hey, write me a marketing plan for my business now in June or May 2025, where things are different and I need a different strategy. But the output is not, it's not what you needed. It's not giving you the results that you want. Sometimes, if you just change what you're asking for, just a few words, it'll change it. So instead of asking for a marketing plan for my Los Angeles area business, you say, give me a promotional strategy for my Los Angeles business. So it's kind of the same thing, but it's just changing those words can sometimes help. One final tip is to add constraints or limitations. And so it might be that you've asked for this marketing plan, but it gave you like the Great American Novel. It's really long. You're like, okay, that's too much. I don't have time to go through that. So you could say, limit it to 10 ideas, or restrict it to 1,000 words, or whatever that limit may be. So maybe you're writing a blog post and you want it to be no more than 3 paragraphs, or a social media post. So think about what it is that you want that output to be, and that will also help as well.
There's a question.
I don't see the
Over
other.
to the right.
Hi.
So are you starting over each time with a new prompt and getting a whole new?
Okay, with Google Gemini, if you look over on the left side of the screen, there's a button that says New Chat. And so if you start a new chat, it starts fresh. And so that's basically a new conversation. That's a really great question, because if you start using or building on a previous conversation, it uses all of the context from the previous prompts and builds upon that. So you do want to start, when you have a new task or a new ask, then you do want to make sure that you're starting with a new chat. So the question was, do the conversations connect? No, but you can actually copy that out. You can take output from something that you had before, and you can restart that and add it into your conversation. There are other, and right now I'm focusing on a free version of Google Gemini. One of the things that you can get is this ability to sort of create these like saved personas, and those are really helpful. So what you could say is, I've done all this work creating, who I am and what my business is and all this background context, but if you can save it and then reuse it, that's very, very helpful. Here's a pro tip for everybody. If the AI tool that you are using doesn't give you the ability to save your information about your business and your prompt, one really nice technique is to start your own, I call it the prompt library. And that could be a document, it could be a Google Doc, anything where you can leave that note and you can write down all of that information. Because we went through those 5 things, like the task, the context, the format, the persona. Like that could take you a hot minute to write all that out. That could take, sometimes I spend 15 minutes writing a prompt. And I don't want to do that again, right? So sometimes when I know that I'm going to be repeating that task again, I just go back to that library and I'm like, oh, phew, I got that all saved. So I can copy that in and use that again. And that's what I did for that grant yesterday. Because I've done that exercise a bunch of times. And I did not need to redo that again, and I have that saved. It will save you time. Yes, I saw 2. All right, I'll start with you, sir.
So we have some microphones coming about to make it easier for you to all ask questions. You want to raise your hand again, we can get some microphones over here. So there's one over here, Marcus, and there's one back there. Okay, great.
So with the persona,
Yes, sir.
is it still necessary to build it up? Like, high as you are the best in, say, you're the best grant manager or grant writer or whatever the case is in the world, and you win awards that far exceed, whatever. Is that still necessary, or does like
one of the things that I've learned in all of these years is that I don't ever make up an answer. I don't actually know the answer to that one to say if you are the best. You're the worst grant writer in the whole world. I know I wouldn't say that if I wanted the grant. So I usually, here's what I would say. If you're ever unsure if you need to test this, and this is not just Gemini, this is any AI tool is to test it. I would say compare the output on 2 variations of that prompt and see which one is giving you what you need. At the end of the day, it's not even necessarily about the words that you're typing in, it's what that output is. Is it giving you what you need? Another thing that you could absolutely try is to have multiple AI tools and test against each other. I think you're going to love Gemini. That's how I would approach it. I would see, okay, I'm not sure which approach to take, so I'm going to try them both. I know that was a little leap, but I don't know that answer. So, all right, yes, ma'am. Go right over here.
Hi. When I first started ChatGPT, I know I was asking information for my business, and then later on I was doing some paperwork for my dad as some of his accountant, and that got mixed in the verbiage. And then when I had a mentor, they said to kind of separate and create different aisles, or or accounts for each one. I didn't know how to really go about that, so I would have one for my business, one for if I was doing all medical. Is that correct? To keep it separated, so I know what I'm talking about.
Unfortunately, I can't give you the ins and outs of ChatGPT. I can tell you how to do it with Gemini. So with Gemini, you can create the different personas, and so you can start it as a gem, like I am my dad's business, I am my mom's business. Now, where it may have, and again, it's hard, I didn't see what happened or what was going on with your computer. It may have been that there was absolutely reasonable, like a chat that got mixed up between the 2 businesses, and that information got conflated. But I would say with Google Gemini, if you keep them as separate chats, or you can even use separate Gemini accounts, one for your dad and one for yourself. Google makes it easy. You just drop down and you can pick basically another profile. So this could be the profile that has all of your dad's stuff. This could be the profile for your business. And so that's another easy, clear way to keep all of that information very separate. All right, I'll do one more, and then I know, because this is what happens, everyone's like, oh, now I have a question. And then we'll be here, and then all those folks over there, like Salesforce and Amazon, they're gonna be like, Stasia, get off the stage, it's our turn.
Yeah, and that's why, at the conclusion at 1 o'clock, we're having a casual networking lunch all around, so we can follow up with some questions. Why don't we finish up with one more?
Hello, I wanted to give a comment about Gemini. I've been using Gemini since day one. I think
She's not a plant, I didn't even hear that.
I think he is amazing. I've been using him before he was Gemini.
He was a bard.
He was Bard.
Yes.
Yes. And I use him on a daily basis, practically for everything. Any questions? Any
What, should come up here.
personal? So yesterday, I asked Gemini, can we go back to our previous conversation? And I was a little surprised that he could not go back to the previous conversation. But there is a save option,
Yes.
everyone. So you can save your conversations, and he will remember what the previous conversation was about.
And there are also privacy settings, so you can actually set for when your chats will disappear. The default is 18 months.
Yes.
But maybe yours were set to 3 months, or maybe you've been using it more than 18
Yes.
months, and then
Yes, I
those
have.
chats were starting to disappear.
Yeah.
So
That
that's,
was a comment, not a question, but
yeah.
Gemini is
Well,
amazing.
thank you for
Everyone.
sharing that. That's really, because sometimes like, I'm not a good salesperson. I just come up here, I just tell you what I know about this stuff. And so it's really gratifying to hear that people actually are benefiting from the products that I'm talking about. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, I'm not leaving. In fact, I have to be in LAX to catch a 4:30 flight, but I'm here, you got me until then. So let's just keep going through this. Here's that prompt library that I was given.
We need to move along. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Okay.
We did start a few minutes late, but I'm almost there. Okay, so Gemini is built for multimodality. I wanted to show you here, I'm gonna skip forward. I'm gonna show you a real business owner that I know. I met her in Washington, DC, and she is actually using Gemini to do different things for her business.
I recommend that every small business use AI for social media marketing. We had a great event called Legends and Legacy that was focused on celebrating women at the highest level of sport. The event was so successful that we wanted to do a full recap of it on social. The challenge then became, how do we synthesize all of this incredible information, both visual and copy, in order to have an effective social media campaign to recap the event? All of the files for this event was in Google Workspace. So I had photos, and I had slides, I had docs that had the strategy and some of the outline for the day. So I asked Gemini to pull out what it thought would be the best social media post and ideas for a social media campaign. So Gemini comes back and gave me a bunch of different options, different captions, different emojis in the caption, and to give me some ideas for several posts that I could create out of this one topic. But really identified the key points that were worth sharing and expanding upon for the social media campaign.
Pretty cool, right? Okay, so in the interest of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the final thing that I was going to show you today. So let's do a quick recap. We talked about prompting, we talked about the prompt framework, we talked about how all of that works together. That's truly the most important thing that I can leave you with today. I have introduced Google Gemini as an option for an AI tool, but there's one other tool that I really, truly think will help every person here in the audience. How many of you know about Notebook LM? Okay, all right, we've got some hands. Notebook LM is awesome. And so that is what I want to quickly show you. I'm going to jump through a bunch of slides here to get through that because here it is. So I want you to think about this as an assistant. It's an AI-powered assistant that can help y'all with anything that you need to do. And the difference here is that it is to show it to you. There is a fun video, but I know that I recognize that we're running out of time. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm just gonna get out of here, and I'm gonna go straight into this demo here. So let me pull this up. Here it is. Okay, here's an example. Let's just say that we own a painting company called Harmonious Hues, right? And so we have all of these assets. We've got training manuals, we've got like PDFs of customer reviews, we've got lists of our services, we've got all this information, all of these things. And it could be anything you want. It could be, I'm applying for government assistance, disaster assistance. I'm applying for a loan to support my small business. I am trying to create a new manual for my employees to figure out what the new procedures are. Anything that you want to know about, and you'll go to Notebook LM, which is a free product, and you will make a notebook. So this is what it looks like. I'm here in a notebook as an example. And what you'll do is you'll click here to add your sources. So that handbook that we were just looking at, it's a source, right? And then what you'll do is you'll upload it, and you can upload 50 different things if you want. There's a new feature now where you can actually find things. It powers into Google search to help you find more sources. And then here in the center, this is where that AI tool comes into play. And now if you ask a question like, can you list 5 themes from all of the feedback, the survey results on areas where my business could improve? Could you list 5 things that customers are looking for? 5 customer complaints where we could work in our employee manual, and that's how this AI tool works. So you can use it as a training manual, you can use it as an internal help center, you can use it as your own research tool. It's awesome. It is a free product, it is built right in, and for anyone, I know that lots of people learn in different ways. One of the most fun parts of this technology is this thing called a audio overview. And what it does is it takes all of the information from your sources. Check this out, y'all. I already pre-generated this.
Customer emails, their own employee handbook,
Online
reviews.
More
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something really relatable, I think, getting your house painted. We've got this fascinating collection of materials about a company, Harmonious Hues Painting, everything from customer email.
All that being said, what it does is it basically makes, you could call it a podcast. It is an audio discussion between 2 guests.